Hi, welcome to lesson 1. We're going to go over two main goals today. Right, we're going to quickly establish the little rules that we're going to have for algebra, and then we're going to review quickly how to use integer operations, right? So add, subtract, multiply, divide using positive and negative numbers, right? A basic foundation of what we need to know moving forward. The first couple are going to be maybe review lessons so far, and then we're going to get into the stuff that is more algebra. Right? So algebra, right? This guy right here, the x, right? I know it can be frustrating because now all of a sudden you got letters in your math class, and you're used to normally just numbers, but think about algebra like this. The only difference is that we have an unknown quantity, right? That's what the variable, normally x, represents, right? So all the math you've been doing up till now has been like 4 plus 5 equals whatever, right? And even obviously more complicated than this, but the idea being the same, right? Is that 4 plus 5, and you were asked to find the answer, okay? That's what we were doing. And really, you could say this was unknown, right? Over here, you had no idea. Well, now, we're going to say 4 plus what equals 9. And in here, you would have to figure out what it is. So instead of putting a question mark or just a blank space, we put a variable. You could put x, you could put y, you could put pretty much any letter. Some are specific, but pretty much for our purposes, any letter in there. Right? So we're still doing the same problem, except for we just don't know. We're looking for something different than just the solution. Okay? Big takeaway from this first section right here. This x, up until you get to algebra, x means multiply in math. Right? We're not going to use it like that anymore because we're gonna be more mature. We're gonna be more grown up with our math now. So x no longer means multiply. If you want to multiply two things together, we're going to do one of two things. We're going to put a dot in between the numbers. Right? So we could do like 4 times 3. That means 4 times 3. That's one way to do it. Now this isn't the best way to do it because of a very simple thing that you could see here. Right? I have 4 and I have 3, and I just put a dot in between. Because I'm going fast and I'm messing around. This now looks like 4.3, right? 4 3/10, 4 decimal point 3. So we're going to avoid the dot whenever possible, particularly as we move on. And from here on out, we're pretty much going to use parentheses. So when you see a number outside of parentheses, without any addition or subtraction in between the number and the parentheses, this is going to mean multiply. So this means 12. This means 4 times 3. Okay? That's what I want you to keep in mind as we go throughout this course. Okay, now that's the first part. Now let's get to operations using integers, positive and negative numbers. We got to know these rules in order to do this well. Okay, so if you follow along on the notes that are attached to this lesson, I'm going to go over each blank as we go through it here. Okay, so first thing you see is this number line. Now, we have to have a solid grasp on this, right? This is just all the numbers in order. Starting at 0, it obviously counts up positive, and then the negatives, right, work in reverse going that way. Right? So we need to get good at this. Now, the things that are written here, if I am, when adding a positive number, and I'm on this number line, I want to use it to think of this like, I want to use this number line to think of how I'm going to add. You move to the right. So wherever I am, I add a positive, and I'm going to go this way. So that's your first blank. Now the opposite is true when adding a negative number. Move left. Right, so if I was adding a negative, I would go that way. Okay? That's the basic rules for this first part. Right? So we're going to do this very, very simply. Okay, first rule right here. Rule number 1, when we go to add and subtract, there's 3 rules for adding and subtract. If both signs are the same, add the numbers and keep that same sign that they have. Right, so if I add 2 positives together, obviously we know that, right? Positive and a positive is going to stay positive. If you add 2 negatives together, a negative and a negative, that's going to stay negative, right? So that's all we're saying. We're going to do these examples right here, and then keep moving on. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. I'm going to do the example problems. I'm going to leave this number line up. You have it on your paper too. You can refer to it. We're going to do some problems with it. There's obviously some down there for you. So first problem is simple, 2 plus 3. Now I'm not insulting you by saying you don't know how to do this. I want to just use this as a demonstration of how we can use a bunch of different ways to think about this. Okay, so the first way we can think about this is on the number line. So if I have 2, I'm going to make my little mark at 2 on the number line, and I'm going to move to the right because I'm adding positive 3 spots. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to end up at 5. Now obviously I know you know this is 5, right? That's one way to do it though. Think about it on the number line. The second way, where it says picture, you want to think about this as, okay, the 2 is 2 positives, and the 3 is 3 positives. If I look at those symbols, how many positives do I have right there? That's 5. Okay, so that's a couple different ways to get our answer. Okay, second example, -1 minus 4. Now here's the thing, and we're going to go over this formally in a minute. I don't want to subtract anymore in this course. It gets complicated when we get positives, negatives, and we're going to have to start doing longer stuff. So what we're going to do from here on out, every time you see a subtraction sign, you're going to change it to plus the opposite. So this was a positive 4, I'm going to change it to plus -4. It is the exact same thing, it's just easier to work with, okay? So if you think about that like this, and you have your own number line there, but I'm going to change and go back to this one. If I'm at -1, and I need to add -4, I'm going negative, so I'm going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's going to be -5, right? Other way to think about it, I have 1 negative here, 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives over here. That's 5 total negatives, so my answer will be -5. Right? Like we just said. Okay, that next line in your notes. If the problem is subtraction, rewrite it to addition. I want to do that every single time. Most of the time that's going to mean what we did there. Change subtraction to a plus negative, but not always. But most of the time that's what we're going to do, right? So the examples that we have right there are -4 plus -3. Now that's already 2 negatives, right? So I can just add these together. That's going to be -7. Going across, 3 minus -4. See, this is a minus and negative, so we're going to change it. We don't like subtraction anymore, so we're going to change this to positive, and then that's going to become the opposite, so that's now positive. So really this is 3 plus 4, which of course we know is 7. Bottom row where it says practice, 4 plus -2. That one we can just do, that's -2. We'll get to that in a second. If you don't quite get it, -2 plus -3. That one we can just do, that's -5. And the last one, -1 minus a +4. And here we have to change, right? I don't want subtraction signs anymore. So I'm going to change this to plus -4. So it's -1 plus -4, that's going to give me -5. Okay, that's the first part of our process here. All right, that's rule number 1. Rule number two. Rule number two. In your blank there. When both signs are different, find the difference, which means subtract, right? Find the difference and use the sign of the number with the greatest absolute value. Right? So now what that means, absolute value, quick review of absolute value. That means distance from zero, right? So it's not the biggest number, right? So if I had positive 2 and negative 4, everyone agrees to me that positive 2 is more than negative 4, right? You'd rather have positive $2 in your bank account than negative $4 in your bank account, if you want to think about it like that, right? But see how this is only 2 spaces from 0, and then the negative 4 is 4 spaces from 0? The negative 4 has the higher absolute value, so that would actually become a negative if I was adding these together. All right, so let's look at the examples that we got here under example 3. Negative 2 plus 3. Okay, do it 2 ways. We can go to our number line. So I'm at negative 2 and I'm adding 3 to that. 1, 2, 3. That's going to give me 1. Or I could use the positive and the negatives here, right? So I have 2 negatives. I have 1, 2, 3 positives. Those cancel each other, and I'm left with just 1 positive, right? So the answer to that would be 1. Next one, 1 plus negative 4. So, same idea, go back to the number line. We're at 1, we have to go left 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to end up with negative 3. If I wanted to do this by writing them out, I have 1 positive, 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. The positive and the negative cancel each other out, and I'm left with these 3 negatives, which gives me negative 3. Okay? Alright. Flip to the back real quick, and we have one more rule to go over, and then we're going to get multiply and divide, which are actually simpler than addition and subtraction. Okay, rule 3. Rule 3. When subtracting a negative, which we already have said, change the sign and use addition. Right? I'm going to beat this into your head to just keep change, where you want to change every subtraction to addition. It just makes our lives much easier. So if we look at the examples here, we have negative 4 minus negative 3. Okay, now that looks complicated. This is why I'm trying to make this point here, right? If you keep the first term, change the subtraction to addition, and then change the sign of whatever is past it. So now this is going to become plus. So this is actually negative 4 plus 3, which of course is 1. Right? Going across, 3 minus negative 4. Minus negative looks weird, right? So again, keep, change, change. This is actually just 3 plus 4. So it's actually a very, very simple problem of just 7. It looks more complicated than it is. Next one, negative 2 minus positive 3. So I'm going to change this to plus negative 3. So this is actually negative 2 plus negative 3, which of course is negative 5. At the bottom, we have 4 minus negative 2. Keep, change, change. So keep, change to positive, change to positive. That's really just 4 plus 2, that's 6. Last two, negative 2 plus negative 3. Do we have anything to change there? No. So that's just negative 5. Last one, negative 1 minus negative 4. Keep, change, change this. So you change, change. So this is just 3. Okay, I'm going to erase these real quick. We're going to do those 2 examples, and then we'll get to the end. All right. Practice 4 right there. Negative 4 minus negative 3. Okay. Keep, change, change. I can't emphasize that enough. So, negative 4 plus, plus. This is really just negative 4 plus 3. It's the same thing. So you can go to your number line, you'd be at negative 4, and you add 1, 2, 3. That gets you to 1. Or you could think about it as 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3 positives. Those cancel, cancel, cancel. Leave you with 1 negative. Obviously, I made a mistake there. It should have been negative 1. Right? Last example here. 4 minus negative 8. We're just going to keep, change, change this. So plus, plus. This really just becomes 4 plus 8, which we don't need anything other help for. Right? That's just 12. Okay? That is addition and subtraction. We no longer need this number line for what we're going to do, because multiplication and division, they don't care about that. So, rule number 1 for multiplying and dividing. Rule 1, when multiplying or dividing numbers with the same sign. The answer is always, always, always positive. Right, now we obviously know that from 5 times 4 or whatever, but the answer is always, always, always going to be positive. So if we look at the examples that we have there, right, A is just 3 times 3. That's obviously going to be positive 9. B, negative 3 times negative 2. I got a negative times a negative. That's going to become a positive as well. So that's going to be positive 6. A negative times a negative is going to make a positive. Right? You ever hear English teachers say a double negative, they cancel each other out? Like you say, isn't no instead of isn't any. That actually mean they'll give an answer. They'll say actually what you're saying is you mean there are, right? 2 negatives make a positive. That's true in math, right? And the next one is negative 3 times negative 2. Those are both things. This is B and C are actually the same problem, just written a different way. So that's also 6. D, negative 12 divided by negative 3. 2 negatives is going to make that positive, so that's 4. E, negative 36 divided by negative 6. 2 negatives is going to make a positive. 36 divided by 6 is obviously 6. And F, 4 divided by 2. That one we know, obviously, as 2. All right, last section right here. Rule number 2. When multiplying or dividing numbers with opposite signs, answer is negative, always. That's a good thing about multiplying and dividing. The rules are the same, right? So positive times a negative is going to be a negative. Negative divided by positive is going to be a negative. Always, always, always. So the examples that we have, A, negative 3 times positive 2. A negative and a positive, that's going to be negative, so it's going to be negative 6. B, negative 5 times 3. Negative times a positive, it's going to be negative, so that one is negative 15. C, 10, not negative, 10 times negative 2. Negative, positive times a negative, that's going to be negative, so that's negative 20. D, we get into division, negative 15 divided by 3. That's going to be negative as well, so that would be negative 5. E, 25 divided by negative 5. Positive divided by a negative is going to be negative 5. And the last one, negative 30 divided by 5. Negative divided by negative, positive is going to be a negative, so that's a negative 6. Okay, that's a quick overview of how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide positive and negative numbers. All right, check the practice problems. I'll be back to go over those, provide the answers, and then we'll move on.